Hello and welcome to PM Express Personality Profile. Yes, normally I'd be walking and striding along, going to somebody's house, but this is different. It's pretty emotional too, and you see, in February last year, had a word with Kwesi Chum. He says, yeah, I'll give you a shot. Put me on the morning show or the super morning show. So I think it was 4th of February. I arrived there in the morning, as a complete baby, complete novice, in the hottest breakfast radio room I can ever imagine. Lo and behold, to find who? Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, to babysit me practically. And what? Barely a year, and now he's going to say goodbye. So I'm here to talk to Kojo just to find out how he ended up in that hot seat. Very much, look, I sat in there about 2 times, man, and it is not for the faint-hearted. And I'm here to talk to my brother to find out how he ended up there, how his life in radio has been, and where he's going from here. Kojo.
Nana.
Well, I don't want to say, is it welcome and goodbye?
How are you doing won't be a bad idea.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, and I hope you're well as well.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to you.
Well, thank you. Well, I don't know how to start this interview, but I want to go beyond, the Super Morning Show, and then we'll work our way up. You was in Benedict, right?
Yeah, in Dansoman.
So you lived in Dansoman?
Yes. I lived in Dansoman, but not while I was at St. Benedict. I was born in Koforidua.
Okay.
I lived in Koforidua with my mother until 1989, because my father was a roaming banker. You know those
Bankless
days?
Bank, yeah?
Yeah, when you're a bank manager, they will transfer you all over the place. So when my father finally settled in Accra, we moved to come join him in Accra in 1989. That was the first time I came to Accra, 1989. We lived in Mataiko.
Okay.
And then we schooled at St. Benedict in Dansoman. But I think later, after university education and all, when I started working at Joy FM, by that time we were living on our own property in Pokwasi.
Okay.
But Pokwasi to Kokomlemle was a long journey. So then I moved to Dansoman, to make that
so
journey.
you came to Dansoman late?
Yeah, later.
I see. Later. There's a story, even though it's not relevant to this interview, I just still want to hear it again. And it's about you being sent, and then you want to watch football in your daddy came.
We were living in Mataiko at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, my father has always been a very stern disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. So we call him Killer. When you watch a movie, the last killer in it. So Killer sent me on a Saturday morning to go buy him newspapers from the Mataiko JT Park. And I go and they're playing football. I love football. So they're playing football and I just buy his newspapers and I sit down and I'm watching the game. So the old man has waited for his papers for well over 2 hours. He's not getting it. And then, somehow he finds his way to the JT Park. And in the melee of people, I'm sitting on a stone somewhere. Somebody directs him to where I am. So I'm seated and I just hear my name, Kwejeje. And I turn. And I'm, as I turn my head like that, I'm met with a slap that way, down there sprawling on the floor. But I learned a great lesson that don't go astray when you've been sent to go do something.
Yeah. Your discipline, shaped you.
It did.
Kojo, most media men, including myself, stumble on media as an accident or as a hobby or as a chance, and then you sort of stay there. Did you set out to say, look, I'm going to do radio, or you were just like the same number who fell in it by accident?
You see, even though most media people or most people who find themselves in particular jobs get there by accident, there's very often something inherent in you that is preparing you for it. You would notice that most of these people either loved media when they were young, were glued to the television, or were doing something that prepared them for it. When I was a lad, when I was a lot younger, I used to MC parties at home and at my uncle's house, Mr. Aduma Sumeni's house, bank quarters around Mataiko and a few other places, just for fun, But I also loved media. I was always glued to the radio, glued to the television. I remember when my dad bought DSTV the first time, all I wanted to watch was CNN. I just couldn't believe 24-hour news channel. It just blew my mind away. So I always loved news. I sit in the car at 3 p.m. when my mom picks me from school and I'm listening to BBC Focus on Africa. I always loved media. But in school, I always studied business because business is what really, really, really gives me the kick. So while I was in university, I was a member of a group known as Students in Free Enterprise, SIFE. And so we'll do a number of business projects during the year and then come and present a report at the end of the year. And it was at one such annual competition that I met Kwesi Chum, who was a judge at one of those competitions. And we had a little hiccup during the presentation. Our presentation went off, the clock was still counting, and we had to go extempo and find a way around it. But because I was project coordinator and I knew the projects off the cuff, I literally interviewed my colleagues live on stage, unscripted, in presenting our project. That, okay, project one, what did we do? And then he would tell us what was the objective. He would tell us what were the results. He would tell us, which was very different from the script that we were going to present. And when we were done, Kwesi came up to me and said, you know what, young man, I like two things about you. Your ability to take charge in the midst of that difficult circumstance. And two, I like your presentation skills, your ability to lead your team and, lead them with questions that brought them to the fore to answer their stuff. And he said, come to Joy FM and try your hands out. I had interned at Joy FM before, during one vacation.
Okay.
So it was, pretty easy to walk in and then start up in the newsroom again, going around, doing assignments, doing interviews, vox pops, and then gradually getting on air for the first time one late Sunday afternoon when I'm sure nobody was listening to the radio. And then, gradually from there, because of my love for business, I got into the business team. So I was presenting the business report on the morning show, which Kwesi and George and the team, do every morning at 8. Until Komla was leaving for the BBC, and I was given an opportunity to do the morning show. And I've done it for the last, almost 8 years now.
So your first job then was Joy FM?
Well, no, my first real job, because at that time when I came in to try my hands at Joy FM, I was just getting out of school because of the presentation I was talking about. So I got a full-time job at British American Tobacco. My first degree is in accounting and economics. It's a Bachelor of Commerce degree. So like I said, business and finance is my first love. So I got a job at British American Tobacco as a treasury analyst. And so that was my full-time job. So I'll come and read the business report just at around 8 o'clock. And then I'll get out. By 8:30, I am, in the office at Valco House, where Stanbic Bank used to be until they moved now to airport. So I'll go there and work full day. And then when I'm done with my day job at 5 p.m., I'll come back and come and read Newsnight at 6 and work a night shift at Joy FM and get home around 11 p.m. So that was my real first-time job while I was doing this part-time until such a time that I was given this new challenge. And then I had to come full-time to Joy FM.
Well, I think that's good motivation for the young ones who are watching that. You don't have to do just one job.
No.
You need to add a bit more, because I like that. You come in the morning, finish, go do your main job, and then after you come. It sounds like a really London living, man. you don't hear that often in Ghana.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like that.
And I guess perhaps I learned it from the UK, because when I worked in the UK, I used to do construction during the day and security at night. So, because I had a certain monetary target that I wanted to meet to come do something back home when I came back. So, I was literally doing 2 shifts, yeah. So perhaps that's where I learned it from.
I see. I'm not going to tell mine now. But one job is definitely not enough.
No.
Definitely not enough. Well, that's good. But so I want to, now let's go to the transition from Kobna to you. Now, I find that it's one of the most grueling things, or if I may even use the word unfair, because the listener is used to a particular voice. Whether good or bad, that's what they want to hear. For one reason or the other, this voice is going and you are coming. Even though you haven't done anything, they would completely, most people will say, no, I don't want to hear this voice.
I like my old one.
I want my old one. And you need to stay and say, look, listen to this one, because I also have something. How did you go through that?
It's a dicey space to find yourself in. You are spot on when you say that the listener falls in love with an anchor. Komla did it for 10 years before I took over. I just did 8. Komla did 10 years before I took over. And I grew up listening to Komla Dumo. Many people did, and we all fell in love with him. So the day it's announced that he's going and you are coming, people just dislike you. You have taken their Komla away from them. And it's the same way with Bernard and Francis. When I talk to them, as I have done in the last 2 years, trying to prepare them for this day, because once I took on a new academic pursuit, we knew that this day will come. So in the last 2 years, we've been trying to warm them up and train them. And it's something we've been talking about, that listeners would dislike you just because you have taken their anchor from them. Of course, some will be relieved to, have you go home, but there's a good number who would just dislike them for that. But, the truth is that the worst thing to do is to step into a big man's shoes or a great man's shoes. Thabo Mbeki was heavily judged because people were measuring him to Mandela. And so it is all over the world. So what I tried not to do was not to become another Komladumo, because I knew I could not become a Komladumo. Never. I am not a Komladumo. I could not become a Komladumo. So if the managers of the station found something in me that they thought was good and worth bringing to the limelight, what I needed to do was to hone that skill set and let my listeners experience it. And that's the very same advice that I've been sharing with Francis and Bernard, that there's something about them that sparkles. They need to sharpen it and let the world experience it. That's how you do it.
But did you get the warm-up transition between you and Kopna, or was it bam like that? Because Francis has been in and out, Bernard has been in and out.
Yeah.
So now I'm sure some people may know you're gone, but it feels like you're on holiday. Oh, you never know. Next 2 weeks you might come back on. Did you get that?
When Komla was leaving for the BBC, Komla first I think went for an interview at the BBC. He came back, and so we in-house knew, but the world didn't know. But at the point when the transition conversations were taking place, I know Kwesi Chum, Ken Ashigbe, who was general manager at the time, he's now managing director of Graphic Communications Group. They were having a number of conversations with various actors about who to replace Komla. And when they settled on me, Ken invited me for a conversation, and the first question he asked me straight off the hip, he shot from the hip, that how would you like, to do the morning show? Would you like to do the morning show? And I'm like, of course, boss. That's everybody's, show. Anybody would like to do that show. Anyway, by the way, boss, you called me. You said you wanted us to talk about something. He said, yes, that's what I want us to talk about. And I laughed. And he said, okay, so tomorrow morning we're going to try you out on the show to help Komla out, and then let's see how it works. This is a Sunday afternoon. I honestly thought it was a joke. So the Monday morning I didn't show up. So I came at 8 o'clock to read my business. So right after the business, during the commercial break, Komla and Standogbe, who were, on the team at the time, just took time off and said, young man, why are you being obstinate? You are supposed to come and start your understudy today. And I'm like, are you guys serious with this thing? They're like, yeah, real. So then I went back to Ken, and Ken said, I am serious. We need to, get you on and then do this, because the transition is going to come quicker than we expect. So Tuesday morning I came. Wednesday morning I was there. Thursday morning I was there. Friday, Komla was out. And we had to try and, take it up. I remember my classic moment with Komla on Tuesday morning when I came and I was shaking. And I'm like, boss, so what are we going to discuss today? He's like, oh, don't worry, sit down. Then he prints something on his laptop and then hits the print command. He comes out of the printer and says, take out the paper for me. So then I pick the paper. He doesn't come for the paper. He walks down the staircase. And if you know Komla, he has a way of adjusting his trousers. So he adjusts his trousers and then he looks back at me and says, make we go. Like a sheep being led to the slaughterhouse. And then we go into the studio and he starts the show and he says, there was a Kojo Oppong song he used to play. So he plays the song and he says, that's Kojo Oppong in the background. And talking of Kojos, I have a Kojo with me here in the studio. Kojo, good morning. I'm like, good morning. And he says, time for the message of motivation. And apparently that was a paper he had given me. So then I go and I'm shaking and this morning I want to inform you about I was lousy. But God has been good, and we've had good coaches and a very great team that has supported, and we've tried to do it for the last 8 years.
Yeah, talking about LPMs and shaking. I've been there a year now, and I avoid it at all costs. I'm still shaking at LPMs.
Yeah.
But I must say, I don't think anybody does an LPM better than you.
We try.
You're the best at it. As for that, you're the best. I give it to you. I give it to you. Because you're 8 years. Some of the low points.
There are quite a lot of low points. But I'm not the type who really keeps sad memories or low memories. Once in a while I may recall them. I recall days when I did interviews that I wasn't really prepared for, and how nasty those interviews ended up. Today, one of my greatest friends before I took this break is Dr. Charles Wekubrobe. Dr. Charles Wekubrobe, in I think 2006 or so, gave me one of my most difficult moments on radio. This is after the Ghana at 50 hearings, and we had an interview with him, and he just wouldn't speak about it. And that was the real, that was the real meat for the interview. And I tried as much. And Charlie Brops is a bully. So he just bullied me and whipped me about the radio, live on air. And I felt like crap by the time I was done. In fact, I cried that day after the show. So Kofi Ansah, my producer, myself, and Bennett Frimpong, who was the head of talk programs at the time, we actually came here to Alisa Hotel for breakfast. I was crying like a baby, and he's like, no, don't worry. Today may be bad, but tomorrow has to be better. And Bennett told me something that has always stuck with me. Bennett told me that you are as good as tomorrow's show. Even if you had a great show today, it doesn't matter. You're as good as tomorrow's show. So if the show went bad today, we've got to make it right tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And there are a few other very, difficult days. I had an interview with Nana Akufo-Addo. He was somewhere in, I think, Addis Ababa, where the AU had rejected a proposal that Ghana had made. And we called him up on phone, and I said, Nana, I understand that, the AU has rejected your proposal for something. And Nana, asked me a question back on the radio. Who told you that? And I'm left for like 15 seconds not having a clear answer, because you are on there and sometimes how the producer rushes in with some quick information. You don't have the full facts, but you have to work around it with your listeners at the same time trying to discover it. So if you're cut off the moment like that, that's it. It's difficult. There have been quite a few, quite a number actually, but I really don't keep all of them to heart. There are ups and downs, but you take them in your stride and then you move along.
And, within the 8 years, we have Queen Kojo, we have Princess Kojo, and we have Prince Kojo.
Yeah.
And I know Princess Kojo was, I think I was there. I lived the moment of Princess Kojo. How has she been?
She's fantastic. She's 8 months now, and she's currently my reigning queen. She has not been dethroned yet.
Really?
No.
She's moved from princess to queen?
She's now queen.
There's going to be trouble at home. There's going to be trouble at home. The Super Morning Show, it's very authoritative. It has declared presidents and dethroned presidents and, basically made... even if you cough, I'm sure a pharmaceutical company will ring in and say, look, I have a cough mixture here for you. And there's you steering this. Are you always aware of the power behind that office, or do you sometimes forget and you have to be reminded? How?
No. You see, when you're doing a job like that, you need an anchor. You need a reality check every time. Two things that helped me over the years to be very cognizant of where I was sitting and the nuances of that job. One, family. And my family is, a very religious family. Mm-hmm. Both my nuclear family now and then my extended family. And we're always reminded of the fact that you are a nobody. It's just by the grace of God that you have the opportunity to sit here. And you see this microphone in front of you. The day they switch it off, you don't have all of this power and this clout. So don't get consumed. Don't think that you are all that there is. You are Lord of all that you survey. And that reality check, whether it's from your mother or your father or your wife or your siblings, they are the biggest critics. They are my biggest critics. They are my biggest supporters as well. That reality check, grounded in a certain firm religious foundation, is a good check. The second is a certain accountability system that we have in the multimedia group. You don't finish a show and go home because you think that you've done a show. When you are done, whether it's a newsroom or the programs department, when you are done, you will sit with colleagues and we'll do an assessment. And we always make this point that we don't want a praise and worship session where we do, oh, Charlie, fantastic show, fantastic. We don't want that. We want to know what went wrong, what we can do better, what we should do less of. That accountability framework, where Sedemofori or Kofi Ansah or the guys in the newsroom will come, Maraba, Elvis or somebody will come and tell you, Master, this thing was bad, don't do it again. Or this thing, maybe we can tweak it this way. That consistent desire to do better always keeps you cognizant of the nuances of the job, and you keep yourself, walking thinly in that middle line.
And I told someone I was going to interview, and he asked me to ask you if you study a new word every day, because every day he tunes in, he says Kojo always has a new word every single day. So I'm asking.
The reason, no, I don't study a new word every day per se, but I read a lot. I had lunch with the chairman of the Melcom Group, Mr. Bhagwan Kupchandani, just a couple of days ago, and he gave me this little book of reflections of his that he had gathered from quotes and other things. That's what I'm reading currently. I'm always reading something, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. And because of that, I'm able to pick up new vocabulary, new understanding, new theories. Because, the human being, unlike the animal, is the living being that must acquire its skill set. The animals and other living beings, this is by instinct. But for the human being, you have to acquire the skill set. So education or learning is perhaps one of the biggest gifts that any human being must give himself. And so for me, reading, trying to learn something new every time has always been a big thing. Then if you're going to do a show like the morning show, like I was telling Redwan, the last thing we all want is an empty-headed guy on radio making noise. So you need to be reading and researching and trying to understand stuff and learning from people, calling up people that, listen, tomorrow I'm going to discuss this healthcare bill. I don't understand this and that and that. And he says, come to my house at 8. You have to get to the station by 5. So you've got to go and try and get an understanding. So you are always learning, and that's what translates into some of these new words and vocabularies that you talk of.
You see, it's going to get a bit personal. Not too personal, anyway. You were very formal, very prim and proper. And there was Nana Nsakwa on your show.
My mother was a teacher, that's why.
There you go. See, now my mom was a hairdresser and a caterer. Couldn't be further apart from it. And there's Nana Nsakwa on your show, far away from prim and proper.
Or Edgar Redu, for that matter.
Edgar Redu. Has a story for every issue, has a joke for every issue. How were you adapting to all this chaos?
I honestly don't know, apart from the fact that you always have a big objective at the end of the day. There's something that we always used to do. I don't know if you ever saw it. There's a little photo in the studio of a man and his wife with kids in the car driving to work. It's in the top left corner of the studio. And anytime I sit down and then I cast my eye there, it reminds me of who we are speaking to. There are kids in the car who are listening to us. There's a wife, there's a husband in the car listening to us by the time we are going. That's my vision board. It helps me to lock in. What that does is that it helps you remind yourself of what the objective is this morning. Our objective when we redesigned the morning show, because the morning show that we've been doing in the last 8 years is very different from the one that Komla was doing. Because like I said, you can't be a Komla Dumo, so you have to redefine your show. When we redefined the show, what we wanted to create was a family fun experience that fits into a national conversation that challenges all of us to do better. That was our definition for the morning show. A family fun experience that fits into a national conversation that challenges all of us to do better as individuals, businesses, communities, and as a nation. Now, if you remind yourself every time of what the vision is, you see your vision board up there. It doesn't matter what an Nana Nsakwa is saying or what an Edgar is saying or what somebody is saying. You are always able to bring them back to the real conversation that we need to have at the end of the day. So I know there are times when people say, oh, Kojo is too sanitized. When people are arguing, he likes to cut them off and, bring them back. It doesn't matter whether it's a Nunu Mensah or somebody. He always likes to bring them back. Sometimes let people throw a few punches. It makes it exciting. But for me, the point is this. What is the reason for which we came to the radio this morning? To hear people insult themselves and argue and fight or just make banal arguments? No, we came to have a family fun experience with the kids in the car, with the wife, with the husband, to delve it into a national conversation that challenges all of us to be better. So even the questions we are asking, the opinions we are expressing, they should be opinions and questions that steer us on this course. So you can have a lot of crazy stuff going on around, but if you've got your eye locked in on the destination, you can bring everybody back on track.
It leads me to the next question. Is that, the punches and the chaos. And people say on radio, it's how it was said, or not necessarily what it was said. So you realize that the how it was said people have more audience.
True.
Weren't you tempted to say, Chale, let me throw punches here to also get audience rather than just stay in the prim and proper, go, maybe one day my reward is in heaven. Let me get my reward right here.
No, I mean, my longest serving producer, Kofi Ansan, would always tell you that we always had this conversation back and forth with management of the station. And our position was simple, that we will do this job and get up from this job any day, knowing clearly in our minds that we stood for a particular standard. We are prepared to lose our job for the standard. than to follow a crowd that we're going to cause crazy things to happen on radio just for audience. Our position was that fire us if you think that we are not delivering you the audience. We believe that there's an audience out there that wants decent, forward-moving radio conversations, and we'll program for their interest, edifying conversations for their interest. That's how we rebuilt the morning show and focused it to be. If for any reason you think that you want chaos on the radio, please sack us and bring other people who will give you chaos on the radio. But we're happy to lose our jobs and go to bed knowing that we have not compromised on any standards. There were times when, there are tapes that we will refuse to play. And people will come and say, well, that's not the station opinion, something. And I'm sure you saw a few of them. We will gladly say, well, we can get up for you to come and sit down and play the tape. But we believe that this tape, just inflames passions in this country, especially at a time when we are going for an election. We will not play the tape. We'll let somebody listen to it and paraphrase the substance matter for us, but we will not play it on radio. And we're prepared to lose our jobs for that. I think that across board, people should stand for something. You work in the ministries, you work in a company, you work in some institution, and you are literally being forced to compromise on standards that you know deep in your heart are standards that are wrong. Don't just follow it that, hey, here, if I don't do it, they'll get it. I think that people should be bold enough to lay down their job that I'm willing to lose this job while upholding the standard, not to compromise on it just because I want to hold on to a job. So yes, there were many times like that, but I think it was a healthy conversation. And at the end of the day, the station respected our view, even though sometimes we disagreed. The station respected our view on some of these things.
You see, but I think the position you took paid off, because if you look at the number of adverts that people are willing to put on the morning show, whether it's got the maximum listenership or not, tells you that they have some respect, extreme respect for that segment, and that they will pay, fortunes to put their adverts there. The flip side again is, how are you able to manage the sheer load of LPMs and adverts and deliver content?
The radio or the media business is about delivering content that excites an audience and then attracting advertisers because there's a large audience. It's a balance. And I don't think anybody can ever say anywhere that they've perfected that balance. I know we are still walking that line so that we don't over-commercialize the show or drive it with too much content, and by the time you are done, there's no advert and you have to go home broke. It's a balance we are still trying to walk. I'm not sure we've succeeded yet, but I'm optimistic that while we are cognizant of this balance and while we are keeping an eye on it, we can walk it nicely.
We're going to come back, and when we come back, we want to find out, there's rumors that he's going to Switzerland to work with this big oil firm. Is it true or not? Stay tuned. Well, hello and welcome back to the poolside of Alisa Hotel. I'm sat here talking to my own brother, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who, pretty nursed me into the Super Morning Show, and I'm very grateful for that. But as he's leaving, when we're all talking and trying to find out where he's going, and just before the break, I've heard a rumor that he's going to work for a big oil company in Switzerland. I want to find out if that's true. I'll put him on spot on air. But before, there's a message here for him. And this came in my inbox on my Facebook. And it says, please, Nana, I control myself because of Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Quitting radio, I will commit suicide if I don't hear his voice on Monday. I send this message to all who are working at multimedia. Now, these are some of the attachments. These are some of the attachments that, listeners have. So while you're going to, allegedly, Switzerland to work for this big oil company, you probably need to take NK along. I don't want to say the full name, but probably take NK along to save a life.
I will try and send him a message on Facebook, and maybe I can give him my assurances in private.
Sure,
but he will not be hearing me on radio, but I'm sure I can still have a relationship with him.
Sure. I mean, it sounds a bit serious. Please, Nana, I control myself because of your...
I hope he's not serious, but I will still have a chat with him.
Okay. Now, back to the rumor that, there's this big oil firm in Switzerland. And, they've made you an offer that you can't refuse. And so...
That sounds like the Godfather.
Very soon, you'll be skiing in, Geneva.
Really?
Is that true? Or?
No, it's not true. It's not true because of a number of things. As a matter of fact, it's not true.
Okay.
But you see, I'm somebody who gets homesick very easily. So I've had a few international job offers, but I get homesick very easily, and I know that it is not in my blood to go live out there and leave family and everybody behind and work.
Well, you take family with you.
Well,
you won't be homesick.
I like my little
Princess Kojo. She's Queen Kojo now. So you have two queens.
I like my little corner. No, but the reality is that I am going back to school to ramp up the final 6 months of a course I took on about 2 years ago, and then to transition to a higher level of that particular academic program. Like I mentioned earlier, the last thing you want is somebody in the public space. Sometimes because of democracy, everybody believes he has a voice. Mm-hmm. But what you want is that you want educated opinions. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I want is to be sitting on radio, with uneducated opinions and purporting to direct people's conversations or, ask questions of people who know better than I am. So at some point, you need to go back to school and feed your brain a little bit so that you can do a better job. So I'm just going back to school. So
are we expecting you back?
You would obviously see and hear a lot of me in the media space in due course.
I won't push you. I won't push you. But, the office you hold now is really big. So whatever it is that you're going to pursue must be really, really important to leave this. That's what I am.
It's true. But you see, also, I think that people must do things with conviction. The office that I've held in the last 8 years has been a very influential office. I've been paid very well for it. It comes with its own perks. So sometimes you even catch yourself wondering, but why on earth am I willing to lay this all down? But like I mentioned earlier, when you have a clear conviction about what exactly it is that you want to pursue, what exactly it is that you want to stand for, and if, in my case, I believe that I need to go and better myself, then the entrapments of this office will not be enough to hold you down. You need to do that so that you can better yourself for the future.
Let's leave the Super Morning Show. Let's go outside a bit, and that's when you were moderating the presidential debate. The presidential debate.
Yeah.
And there was this encounter with Nana Akufo-Addo.
Yeah.
And what's the truth? What's the story?
But I told you the truth. I'm wondering why you are asking what's the truth.
Because people think that he was more aggressive than you want to let out.
Okay, but in whose interest would it be for me to not do that? You get my point? There's really nothing to gain or lose by telling the truth. I've had a very good relationship with Nana Addo himself, with President Mahama, with Hassan Ayaga, with Dr. Abu Sakara. And every time we are done with the debate, they will usually come down to where the moderators were, shake hands and express their views. Hey, you were very wicked to me. Or, hey, you didn't give me your 3 minutes. Hey, you didn't, So on that occasion, when Nana Addo came by, he said that he thought he wanted room to rebut something that somebody had said. And I said, well, my sincere apologies, but the rules were that the time was up and we couldn't go any further. It hasn't marred my relationship with him. What I didn't necessarily help my relationship with anybody else. So, you've just got to stay the line and do your job and follow the rules.
Is it that we're just hungry? We wanted bad news so that we could sell it. Media culture.
Well, even my long leave, I saw stories on peacefmonline.com and other networks that gave it a twist. I think sometimes we media people like to twist things and add little things, spice it up a little bit, then it looks exciting. But the truth is the truth is the truth. What is. You can't move away from it.
You're always going to be a part of the Super Morning Show, though.
Am I?
I think so. You see, like, Kojo Oppong left and went to BBC, so there was a cut-off.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be within, 8 kilometer, 10 kilometer proximity, then you're always going to be a part of it.
No. The team, the producers have their full hand to do their job. If they do ask me for any views, because we're personal friends, there are times when somebody will call you up, just like last night. One of the presenters called me up, asking about something, and I'm happy to help out on that. But I don't seek to be remote controlling the show or to be infusing my ideas from where I am.
It's your baby, though, isn't it?
It's not.
You need to keep it,
It's not. We'll give the support that we have to give, but we must always develop the younger ones to take on the charge and take it higher, than we even could.
Your relationship with Kofi and Son has been, splendid. Splendid.
But we've had a lot of fights as well. People don't know that. It's like any marriage. No, but you see, the thing about any public role is that there are people in the front and people at the back. As we are recording this show, there are about 5 people behind the scenes here. They are the people who really make the show. And too often, we, those on air, get all the credit, take all the credit, and those who really make it happen don't get much credit. My relationship with Kofi, and why I like to talk about him and to bring him in, is because we both came on at the same time. We were 2 young men, and we quickly realized that we need to build a friendship and a relationship which will outlive the show even.
I'm not sharing any of my credit with Famous. Famous is behind the camera, and I'm not sharing any of my credit. So if there's any credit for him, separate and give his to him, because I'm not sharing.
So, myself and Kofi built a very strong friendship, a very personal relationship. If there are difficulties in my life, I'll talk to him about it. If there are difficulties in his life, he'll talk to me about it. And it is that friendship that helped him manage me well and helped me deal with him pretty well. And so, I'm loud in my applause of what Kofi and his team did to support me in these 8 years. And I'm sure that it should be a tradition that other presenters should follow.
That's good. The other thing was the responsibility of declaring the election.
That's a difficult one. We don't declare. We project.
That's why I love English, man. There's always a nice word to be
technical as it sounds. No. We project. What don't you like about it?
Oh, I love it. I was just trying to find out the final moment where now push the mic up and then go out and say that as per YABCD, I project that A is a winner or B is a loser.
I think one day we should do a behind-the-scenes movie about what goes on in the last 4 hours before Joy FM makes a projection. Because today, maybe let me tell a little story. In 2008, there was a lot of drama behind the scenes before we made the projection. You had calls from wherever, because we bring in guests at a time, there are people around who know we are going to make a projection. And so people are calling from wherever, from the highest offices are calling. Some say, no, don't make the projection. Some say, go ahead, project, all sort of things. But we build a strong buffer that helps us to shut out all of those people. And then we go into this final meeting.
Sorry, do you have your phone with you at a time, or do you turn it off?
I don't keep my phone with me at that time. The reason is that at the beginning of the 2008 election, for instance, I learned that you have friends and family, people calling you and texting you, trying to know what's happening. So I realized it's easier if I just switch off. And then we get into the tunnel and then we do our professional job. So we shut out everybody. And then, there's a final meeting that takes place to look at all the numbers. And then we do the permutations. And, for those who have strong mathematical backgrounds, strong analytical backgrounds, that becomes a moment that you enjoy. I recall my first time in 2008. Later, my doctor told me that what I suffered was shock. Because at the time when we were making the projection, I couldn't hear myself. At the time that we had finished with all the analysis and the numbers and scripted it down, I couldn't hear myself. I was just reading. At that time. That was how scared I was in 2008. But having gone through the mill, by 2012, I understood how it works. In 2012, around 3:30 a.m., we were ready to make a call. But when we went for the final meeting, we had to do the numbers over and over again from almost 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m. And the gap was widening. And from our point of view, wasn't going to change. And so we had to come on there and then make that projection. It's a scary moment. It's a difficult moment. But it's like a doctor saying that this woman is gone into labor, the baby is locked in the pelvis, but I'm scared to do the operation. You're going to kill both the baby and the mother. It's a job that must be done. Somebody has to do it. I know people are happy and people are unhappy about it. I'm sorry if people take offense at that job that we do, but somebody has to do that job. In the best of democracies, it is done. We need to challenge ourselves to grow to become, good democracies as well. We need to get to a level where we strengthen the system so that there's so much independence, there's so much clarity, everybody understands how the system works. And then we can do this and do it effectively as the years go by. We need to strengthen our democracy and not shy away from it because it's scary or because it's difficult. It's a difficult time, but we have to do it.
I'll take a break here, and then when I come back, I want to find out. After that, do you go home or do you stay in a hotel? Stay tuned. Hello, Heart to Heart with Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, personality profile. And just before we went to the break, he is now projected who's going to be the winner of an election. What then do you do? Do you drive and make the long journey back home, or do you catch a cab and you go and pitch in the hotel for at least 2 days until things settle?
I would love to tell you, but I'll be revealing what my colleagues will be doing in 2016. So I won't tell you.
I won't push. I won't push.
Thank you.
But it's brave though, because for us everything is MPP NDCU.
Yeah.
80% of our existence in this country is MPP NDCU.
But you see, and I've had countless times when people have said, there are times when people say, oh, you are NDC. There are times, oh, you are MPP. There are times, oh, you are biased for this one, you're biased against this one. People forget that we vote as well. We have our political opinions as well. But you try as hard, you don't succeed every time, but you try very hard to ensure that your political opinion doesn't seep into the work that you do. And by the way, if the number is A and you go and say B on radio, the truth will come out at some point. You will lose credibility. So it doesn't pay, even if it is your party you voted for that has lost the election or won the election. It doesn't pay. You go and vote and come back. But when you come, you make your projection. You do the professional job that must be done.
Anyway, Kojo.
Yes, sir.
8 years. What has been your highest moment within these 8 years on the Super Morning Show? Thinking you went home and you think, wow,
we did it.
We did it.
My highest moments have been the days when we have opened our Read 100 libraries. And when we open the libraries and the kids are going into the library for the first time, you see the sparkle in their eyes and the joy on their faces as they rush into those libraries. And when we did it in Accra and when we did it in Ho, and soon we'll do it in Kumasi as well, and then we'll go do the last one in Wa as well. It always gives you an adrenaline rush that, yes, we've done it.
You keep saying soon we'll do, soon we'll do. So you still haven't severed your umbilical cord. We still will do it.
Well, I'm gone, but the team promises me that they will invite me for the launch. So that's why I say soon we will.
We like Buidam, then, we like a Buidam.
Yeah.
Well, Kojo is here.
No. But
sure.
That's really been my highlight, doing things for the kids. Doing things for the kids has really been my highlight. The second highlight I've had is with the Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen.
Okay.
And the night before, when we go around the places where some of these hawkers and street people sleep, you get the real feel of how blessed and privileged you have been. And when we're done with the soup kitchen and we're cleaning up and we're just driving away, that's when you get that feeling that says, yes, we've done it. One of the greatest guys always at the soup kitchen was Amos Ballington of blessed memory. He passed away last year. And, when it's all done, he will sit down with you and then he'll say, Yabo Ejuma. And that's where you really, it's not about talking to some president or some big man who comes with an entourage of bodyguards, but it's about those little things that matter.
Well, I emulated it in Edumasa and did the Edumasa soup kitchen.
Yes, you told me about it.
You had some rice.
And I'm sure I gave you that punch as well.
It did, Good. You see the old ladies going home with their little packs of rice and oils. Yeah, so I think I need to make you official. Whatever is left, give it to me. Let me go and feed my old ladies back there. So I can really, if you can reach out and put a smile,
it gives you the
on somebody's face. And for your new voices that are on radio, I know you said you've coached them and you've done this but sometimes, you tune in today and then we hear this voice, you tune in today and then you hear that voice. Is it going to be the new strategy on the SMS show, or are we going to have, one
We're going to have Francis and Bernard do it together. When you go to the US, many of the shows are done as a tag team.
Okay.
Because there are strengths in various people. And so you bring out those strengths and you merge them. And Francis and Bernard are, fantastic young men who have their distinct strengths. And our expectation is that they would let themselves go and, let their strengths flow for all of us to get double what we got with Kojo.
But a little bit of a private life, because you're a businessman. And you have your own little bank.
Okay. You put it that way.
Yeah, your own little bank. How is that faring? And how are you juggling both?
Business is a risky venture. Business is for the brave. So you must be prepared to put your money where your thoughts are, to put your money where your heart is. So when you make an investment in any business venture, you are emotionally attached to it as well. Unless, of course, you've got so much money that really doesn't mean much to you. But over the years, what I've done is to structure my businesses in such a way that there's always a very competent team. Because the business is the people. It's not the cars and the computers and the ATM machines, it's the people. Mm-hmm. So to structure my business in such a way that we have strong, competent, well-motivated people who can run it. And you guide and you coach and you support them from behind. The last year was difficult in business. It's not just for me. I think it's been for many other business people. Mm-hmm. But we can only expect that in the coming years, we will do things differently to get them better.
Another thing I like about you is your springboard escapades, because I really admire people who have something and are willing to share it out, rather than, I don't want to tell anybody this thing. And I know you do that. The reason I admire you is because you're not like an old man. You're a young man, but still prepared to share. Because you'll be surprised that there are people who want to keep their success a secret, or so this one. So I like that about you. But what are some of the experiences you share on your springboards? On the Springboard Roadshow, and for me, my conversation is always very simple. On the Springboard Roadshows, and in March, when I speak on the TED platform, I'll be speaking on the TED platform in March as well. The conversation that I have with people is very simple. That number one, and I believe it very much, number one, you need to change your paradigm. This dependence paradigm needs to be changed. Everybody must think of a new paradigm in which he creates some value for the society. If you're not creating any value for the society, you're not going to get rewarded for anything. If you're not solving any problem for the society, you're not going to get rewarded. So the first thing I talk about is a change in the paradigm, particularly for our younger ones in school. Number two is to build capacity. That's something that many of us young people don't do. We believe that we have a right to be part of this conversation. We can say this to our leaders, we can do. But what's your own capacity? If the guy who is mismanaging left and they gave it to you, can you even mismanage it? What's your capacity? So secondly, I always make that point that we need to build capacity. The third thing I always talk about wherever I go is just do it. It won't be perfect from day one. You won't figure it all out from day one, but just start. Just go ahead and do it. With the little that you have, do it. The Bible says that God asked Moses, what do you have in your hand? He said, I have a staff. And he told him what to do with it. Whatever little you have in your hand, just go with it and do it. The next thing I talk about, the fourth thing I talk about is excellence. Always trying to do it better tomorrow than today. And I told you I learned that from Bernard Frimpong, who said that you are as good as tomorrow's show. You've got to get better tomorrow. Don't rest on your oars today. So that consistent pursuit for excellence is one of the things that I always talk about wherever I go. And these are some of the very simple things that I share with young people wherever I go, across the country. Well, you ask your camera, I think a final farewell to your...
You make it sad when you say farewell.
To your cherished listener.
Hi, my name is Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, and I'll always be with you in spirit. Have a good day.
Folks, that's been it. I've been talking to Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, the CEO of the morning show, Super Morning Show, for the last 8 years. And he's finally going to pursue a course. So when he comes back, he's going to be bigger and better. But he's within the 10-kilometer proximity, so we would always call on him if we need any advice. My name is Nana Ansakwa IV, and thanks you for watching PM Express.